Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the J Free 906 podcast. Shannon, Mike, and Jeff here with you tonight. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for being here again, you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Everything
Thanks for
going
having
well?
me.
going great.
Yeah, I was jamming
Another.
out
What's
to
that?
Jim.
Yeah.
I was jamming out to Jim's music.
Oh, Jim's music is rocking. And speaking of Jim, we've got the three of us here tonight. But next week, Shannon is busy, so we have Jim Kelgard is going to be stepping into your seat next week
Thanks.
to take that spot. He's going to be helping us out. So thank you very much, Jim, for that. We love having you on the show. So be prepared to talk episode number 4 next week, Jim. You're on the wire. So well. I tell you what, it's bound to be another great one. And again, these guys are hitting it out of the park. I mean, last night's episode was phenomenal, in my opinion. It really was. It was another great one.
Yeah.
Left us with a lot of questions, did it not?
It did.
Always does. It's the ranch. I swear.
It was jam packed again. I
Yep.
cannot believe how much they're shoving into every episode.
Yeah.
They already had so much going on before we even got to the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't
There's
expect
so
that
much going on.
segment. To pop
Yeah,
in.
it was a good episode.
Yeah, it truly was. Anyway, welcome everyone to the show tonight. Appreciate you all showing up here. And I am Joy. I caught that right before the show started. She threw up a super chat there. I think it was. Oh gosh, I'm trying to scroll back to it now. It was quite a while ago. Right there. Thank you. I am Joy. Appreciate that very much. It helps to support the show. If anyone else would like to help support the show, you can do so by doing a super chat like that, or there's different ways down in the description of the show. You can help out because it does cost to do this. So I appreciate all the help and the support from the patrons I have in that little video and all the other people that have contributed. Thank you all so very, very much. Appreciate it. Hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you like the content of our show tonight. That always helps with all those YouTube algorithms. And the thing of it is I think that, especially with Shannon and Mike here, we have a nice little breakdown of the episodes, and it's just getting that out there to more people to see it, and join us, and with all their comments and everything. I did want to mention too that tomorrow night we're doing that's probably I'm not going to say the last of, but it's the last official weekly thing for the Curse of Oak Island. For those of you who like that show, we're going to talk a little bit. Seth Bridges, he's out there in the chat tonight too. He's going to join me tomorrow, and we're going to talk a little bit about the drilling down and kind of closing out the season 11 for the Curse of Oak Island. And next Thursday, we finally got him locked in to a date. Next Thursday night, Shannon, Mike, and I are hosting Mr. Eric Bard. Woo-hoo!
Finally, it's very exciting.
Oh, my head, Dad. That's right. Mr. Eric Bard, Professor Bard, is going to be joining us next week, 7:30 Eastern time. That's Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Ranch time. He'll be with us, and there will be a time in here for you guys to ask some questions in the chat. Try to make them questions that he hasn't already answered 100 times, to everything else, because he likes getting hit with new questions, things that make him think, and then his answers will make us think. So
That's right.
yeah,
Lots of thinking.
He's so cool about doing I call him Professor Bard because he should have been a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is a teacher.
He is.
Maybe not formally, but he's teaching all of us.
Every time he's out there doing something, he's teaching us.
Yeah.
And I love it. And every show, we know when he breaks down all this stuff on the show, it's really cool. So Eric Bard, next Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. You're not going to want to miss that. And then coming up on the 6th of June, we have, for the Bigfoot folks who like Bigfoot, we have Jeff Meldrum, or Dr. Meldrum, is going to be joining us. And that's going to be a fun show. And I think, Shannon, you might have to, help out or something with that one, because you want an education on this. So
Okay.
So yes, Dr. Meldrum is going to be on the show with us. So yeah, I've been talking to him and everything, and he's so happy to do it. He's been sending me some pictures and stuff. So we'll get that listed out there soon. So everybody, I'll do a little short on that and get that out there as well. So
I might be just a little excited about that one too.
Who?
Me.
I can tell. You look
I know.
excited.
You know, you
Right?
turned me on to that book, Mike.
Yeah. That his book is excellent. It's too far away. But no, yeah, his book is excellent. I think that was probably it's probably got the most scientific information in it.
Mhm.
And if you look at the data first, don't worry about the stories. Don't worry about the stories. Go through the data, because if you believe the data first or you understand the data, then you start to put some of the experiences people are having against the data that's already out there, and you're
Yep.
like, ugh, what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've been
Should be
listening. I
good.
got the audiobook version because that way I can listen while I'm working and doing things like that. So yeah, it's really, really good. And like you said, it takes it into it's where the science meets the legend. That's what it's called.
Yep.
The legend meets science, and that's where it combines the two together. He's going at it from the science side. So really good book. Anyway, all right, for tonight, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, episode number 3, Dead in the Water. And oh my gosh, did they ever find something dead in the water? We'll get to that towards the end. I'm going to save that part for the end because it's kind of, yeah, kind of. Anyway, so dead in the water. So the guys, they're at the command center off the bat, and I grabbed this picture because I love to point out the Faraday cages that they have. They weren't intended to be Faraday cages, but they got 2 of them here. And if you remember this one over here in the background, this little silo, they are storage bin, whatever you want to call this thing, grain bin,
Green bin. Yep.
works as a cool Faraday cage, does it not?
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. I mean, the
Right.
floor is just dirt, but so to be
Yeah.
true, it would have to have a floor covered. But that's grain is heavy. That's really thick steel. I don't think people
Hmm.
realize how thick that metal is. If you've ever had to take one of those down or move those
Hmm.
sheets, that's hard to do. So
Yep.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because there's been a couple occasions now where people have gone in and sat down in those when they're having some sort of an episode on the ranch, something, sounds in their ears or some kind of a something affecting their body or brain in some way, and they go sit down in there, and then they can like block it out. It's almost yeah, it's a safe place. That's what Jim just said, a safe place. It really is. So I had to grab that picture just because I thought that that's kind of neat that they have those. And if you don't, a Faraday cage, look it up. It's just a metal. They would normally apply electricity to it, I think, or something to help close it in. But it's a metal thing that's supposed to help block signals from outside. Okay, like a tinfoil hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Same
think
concept.
sometimes they build them out of copper
Mhm.
too.
Copper
Like they have
copper
copper
mesh.
walls, copper. It's a copper room, like everything, and then it's like insulated,
Mhm.
like a true one is like that.
Yes, exactly. A true one would be, yeah. But yeah, I mean, even these seem to help. I mean, they've used them a couple
Oh
of
yeah.
times and seemed to help. There was a guy that was feeling very sick and not well at all, and he went and sat down in there, and man, he felt pretty good. And he came out later, and he was okay. I think even
Travis did.
Travis, yeah,
Yep.
Travis even went in one. Yep.
After he got zapped when he lifted that lid off the
Oh
cistern at
yes, yes,
Homestead
yes,
too.
yes. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something. Um, right off the bat, they jump out and they're over talking to Jim Royson and Sam. They're with Omnitech and they are out at the Triangle and they were running a LiDAR drone scan across the Triangle. Remember back when they did this last season at the end and they got that weird circle, what is it? Anomaly. And this is why I used this particular thumbnail for tonight's show because of this scene right here. They're radioing over to Eric, and they're talking about the scan that they just took and the results of this scan. There's the drone, flying over it, and of course, this is the area where they've had like this anomaly here, the thing about 30 feet above the triangle there, weird, whatever it is. And
Hmm.
then they picked up this on LiDAR last season. This is the picture they got last season of this perfect circle. And the reds, I believe, was the high returns. I think in
Yeah, the scales on the left.
oh, okay. Yep.
Red
Yeah,
is
the
high
head.
return,
Yeah,
blue is
yeah.
low.
So the red is up to 69, and then all the way down to the greens down at 22 and 38. And then you got the black area in the center that's no return at all. Like something absorbed it. But this is what he was getting this time. And we talk about when you do a science experiment, if you can repeat it, repeatable, right? If you can do it again
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
kind of get similar or the same results, that kind of helps that scientific method, right? To
Yep.
prove
Oh
what.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Which is they've got such a unique problem set because it's difficult to get repeatable results in a place that's unpredictable. Like the only thing that they can count on is its unpredictability.
Yep.
So the fact that they are starting to this season um, be able to repeat, maybe not exactly, but close enough,
Mm-hmm.
some of this anomalous stuff with the what you're about to show, I'm assuming. Um,
Yep.
that's as close as we've gotten to some repeatable science. I mean, it's not
Absolutely.
exact, but it's I think the closest you can get to in a
Yeah,
place
I
like
agree.
this.
I agree 100% on that because this thing here he was rotating, and I tried to get a good shot of it as he was rotating this, but it came out, and you heard Travis say, "Looks like a donut."
Mm-hmm. It's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the
Yeah.
same spot.
That's I mean, again, it's the ranch. I know. I shouldn't say this, doesn't make any sense, but um so everybody knows lidar is lasers, and so it's shooting out a
Mm-hmm.
laser, and to get a return there has to be a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like a cloud. I mean, that looks like it, like maybe, and I don't know this, but like they took a scan in fog. I mean, because every one of those little points is a reflection of something. It
Mhm.
hits something and bounced back,
Correct.
or there wouldn't be anything. You'd just see nothing, right? That was
Right.
part of the problem in the other
Mm-hmm.
one. If it doesn't bounce back, if the part of that laser light doesn't register back at the lidar, it doesn't get a point. And there's, you know, tons and tons of points there. So I don't, they didn't really say, you know, if this was a sweep or if this was the drone was stationary when it ran this. Obviously, they had just done it. The weather was nice, so
Mhm.
there wasn't
Fog
fog
or
out there.
Mhm.
It just it doesn't make any sense how this would have even happened in the first
Right.
place. And it seems somewhat organized.
Mhm.
So they
Very.
didn't say they saw anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And even if it was dust, why would dust show up in that circular pattern like that? So, and
Yeah,
you
I
get a
mean,
lot of
like
dust flying around there.
hypothetically speaking, if it were something like a cloud, it's still very odd that it's exactly circular and above that area.
right.
Right.
No,
I am at a loss for words. When this showed up last night, and literally my jaw dropped watching because I mean, it's an incredible I don't discovery. I'm not sure is the right word for it, but like I don't even know what to say
Yeah.
about it.
I
Like
agree.
it's insane.
Mhm. It looks like it's the end of two funnels connected together, like the classic model of a traversable wormhole. Yes, it really does. And that's what you see on the left is the thought of what a wormhole would be coming, pulling everything in one side and out making your way across vast distances of space by folding space and connecting the 2 points together. So it's just zoop, you go right straight through and you're light years distance from where you were. If that sort of thing is possible, it's all theoretical. But now they have seen this in two different ways,
Hmm.
and so that's why I did the thumbnail the way I did, because I thought, here's another piece of evidence to suggest that there is a wormhole type anomaly showing up at the triangle. Now we know the triangle, everybody says the triangle. Well, why do they have a triangle? It just happens to be that area where the road made a triangle. It's intersecting roads. And Mike, you talked about this last week because our road used to go through there that has since been closed off. So that's the only reason why they call it the triangle, because of that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, and I asked as well about like it became a natural footpath too, like in conjunction with the road. And so it actually begs the question to me, at least, why that became a natural footpath. Like what drew people to create that, or animals to create it in that way, I guess, is like I can see like the one road
Mhm.
needing to cut through the property or what have you, but for there to be a natural triangle, natural in the sense that man made it or animal made it because they were drawn to walk those paths, I
And
think is
go
interesting
around
by
the
itself.
anomaly.
Right. I mean, that's interesting because if you're trying to get to the road, the fastest way is to get straight to it,
Straight line. Yeah.
not like that. So
Right. So why that? Yeah, that's a great analogy there. So
As
you're
far as
right.
we know, there's nothing to the south. I mean, there's no homestead to the south.
No.
If
right.
if they're coming along from two different directions and both turn south, or where are you going?
Yeah.
Right.
Down to the creek? I don't know.
Yeah,
The
maybe.
crick.
It is a little odd.
It is.
The
I
crick.
mean,
Yeah,
it
I
is.
yeah. You're right. So you make it, why that? I don't know. But anyway, that's why they call it the triangle. And yet so many things have been spotted there. I mean, it's just this place, folks. And I had, talking with other people, I sometimes now I can't because it's getting so daggone warm outside, but I do have a Secret of Skinwalker Ranch t-shirt that I can wear around. But I would wear my hoodie, the one I got at Phenomenon last year from the guys, from Thomas's sons, by the way. Bought it from them last year in their booth, but I wear that around and people say, oh, that show there, it's all crap. Those guys, that is, I'm like, again, I go back to that whole thing. You don't watch it. You really don't watch the show if you feel that way, because there has just been too many things, too many different types of tech that have picked up anomalous things in this same spot to deny that there's something anomalous not happening there. Is that, I don't know if that made any sense, but
No, for sure.
there's too
something going
much.
on.
Something definitely going on there.
Yeah.
What it is yet, they don't know. But if they can ever get to the point where they are able to detect it at will, then they're going to be on something. If they can go, oh, did something happen over there? Let's get over there. And that's what they did. We're going to get to that here in just a little bit, the second portion of this. But when Eric found out about this, he says, let's mobilize. Let's get out there right now while this is still happening. Because as we know, it's not always detectable.
The thing that I think is interesting is the fact that like we have this theory that wormholes exist, but we don't know exactly how they would, which means we're missing information that we don't have. Um, but we acknowledge the fact that they could potentially exist. I don't understand exactly why we acknowledge that they could potentially exist, but then decide that they can't possibly exist on the ranch. And I'm guessing it's because it happens to be televised, but everything is on the internet and television nowadays.
Yep.
Literally everything is accessible through a camera. It doesn't matter if it's through a film crew or somebody's cell phone. So like if a wormhole does show up, if a theory is proven, are people only going to accept it if it's in a lab? And that doesn't make sense because that means
Right.
that we're just trying to make one, not prove that they naturally exist in the environment. And the fact that like they're they're clearly unpredictable, otherwise we would have already been able to locate and or recreate one. So it just, when you have critics, yeah, I can get that, but I don't entirely understand the argument of saying like, oh, it's just for TV. Like everything could potentially be on TV. Think about everything that's on television
Yep.
or the internet or social media. Like that's not a good enough reason to
Toss it out.
toss it out, especially when you've got good science that's happening and people with high tech, some of the best equipment there is. You're talking about bringing in somebody like Jim Royston. Like, at what point do you draw your line and say, oh, well, this is a reputable person who happens to be on television,
Right.
because what we're seeing right now is insane. I mean, but
It is.
how else would we interpret it? How, honestly though, how else would we interpret it?
I don't know.
If the news came out and was like, we just discovered a wormhole in a lab, then we would assume that they're somewhere in nature and then
Mhm.
have to go
Oh,
hunting for
absolutely.
them.
Mhm.
And if we
Yep.
find one in nature, then do we only accept it because it was happened upon and not scientifically studied? Like, it doesn't. Anyways, I'll stop my.
No, no,
I just.
you make a great point there and all of that. You do really do because and it's kinda goes along with what Jim was just saying. Jim had a little post there. He said, "Perhaps wormholes are just as much a part of what we call nature,
Mm-hmm.
just like a sunrise and a sunset,
Yeah.
and we just don't see them." And, and I go back to that little show that we did called Can't Touch This, where we're limited on what we can see, we're limited on what we can hear, and perceive. Are we also limited on what we can touch? If that's the case and we can't see these things manifest, we would never know it's there unless you
Right.
come up with some sort of tech to detect it.
Well, I mean, for good reason, because I don't feel like everybody should be trying to find wormholes, but also at the same time, without the tech, we have thousands of years of people who have, like the indigenous people, who have congregated in places that have unusual things going on there, and they use that for their spiritual practice. Like, that
Yep.
is part of human nature throughout time, that these places exist all over the world. I mean, this just seems to be the most
Mhm.
maybe well-known one in America, but that is not. And we know that there's history on that land with native people. I mean, we watched it in episodes with drum circles and rabbis. Like,
Yeah.
it's clearly a special place that didn't require technology to
Mhm.
acknowledge it for the legends and things to have happened.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And that's one of the questions I'm going to ask Eric. We're going to be talking about sound at the
Mm,
ranch and kind of digging into that a little bit. That was one of my areas that I want to talk to him about and see what
yeah.
his thoughts are on it because, yes, we have seen that. SMS Pirate says nature already provides for the electrochemical gradient exchanges there. Why wouldn't this be a repeatable functional pattern? Yep.
I mean, because
So,
it's interacting with a bunch of different things that are constantly changing. It would
right.
be my guess.
Yep.
Anyways.
And also, and again, we cannot take away you had just mentioned it, and this is why I think what you just said was so good because you were talking about the indigenous peoples. The indigenous
Hmm.
peoples called this area Skinwalker Ridge. They had the spiral up on the hill and the rocks up on top of the mesa. They had
Yeah.
carvings or petroglyphs on the rock right there in that same area to talk about a portal of some sort. I mean,
So I'm going to share something that I mentioned in the pre-show, and then I will
yeah,
stop
please.
running my mouth.
Oh,
But
please go ahead.
I think everybody that watches your show might find it interesting. I was talking with someone this week who is an expert in sound engineering,
Mhm.
without going into too much detail. And he directed me towards a subspecialty of archaeology, which has been kind of recognized in the last 20 years, which is called archaeoacoustics. And there are some really fascinating papers that he sent to me, one of which was by a group of guys at Princeton not that long ago, well, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, where, and these papers exist. So I recommend it to everybody
I
to
just wrote it
Google
down. I'm gonna look it up.
Google archaeoacoustics and petroglyphs, because what they have been able to see across the globe is that in some of these areas of ancient structures or um, caves or tunnel systems where we're seeing petroglyphs, specifically the spiral,
Mhm.
they have been able to connect them all because they put out the same sound frequency, which is at the level of the Schumann resonance.
Mhm.
And that's that's a very special resonance for anybody that's familiar with acoustics. And so the fact that essentially what these papers are saying is that the spiral is a man-made indicator that these spaces have special acoustic qualities,
Yep.
and therefore spiritual practices were drawn to them because of it influencing or impacting the environment while they're in these spiritual practices. So I find that to be fascinating, especially if you can apply a dual meaning to the spiral as being, oh, does it have an acoustic property that opens up a portal? Does it open up your mind so that you can get to another level of spirituality? And these are things that exist in nature that man in the past marked for these purposes.
Exactly.
And we know, I'm not saying this is what's happening at the ranch, but we know that there's native drum circles that have occurred there. We know that there are petroglyphs there. They haven't confirmed it, but there's suspicion that there's tunnels or some sort of hollow something that could be. And one of my other questions was like, could the minerals or crystals that are inside of these caves affect the frequency? Because we've also got something that I don't think's necessarily related in a special way, but that area of Utah has the gilsonite veins, which means that they've got literal veins down into the earth. So is it creating a different type of resonance because of that? So that's all I will say. I digress. I will not speak anymore on it.
No,
But
no, that's great. I'm glad when you brought it up in the pre-show, I was like,
Many
please
notes
talk
taken.
about this.
yeah, it's really, really neat. It's really like I went into rabbit hole. I found a bunch of he sent me a few papers, and then I started reading things, and there are several, like, they give you actual examples of these places, and they show you the petroglyphs and all of these things. So I recommend it to everybody.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. Yep. They marked
That's
places
right.
that they could talk with the gods. Yes, exactly. So,
And it makes you wonder.
it does. And you saw, and again, I know you were trying to say that Skinwalker Ranch may not have this, but I mean,
It
when
could.
you saw Blazing Bear out there working, and then
Yep.
those rocks heated up on the mesa, it's like, how,
Yeah.
again, is it proof? No. But how in the heck does something like that happen?
I
And then they
mean,
stop playing and it cools off. I mean,
yeah.
I'm totally on board with that because I think sound is very, very important in all of this. And that's one of that's one of the questions I want to ask for
I
Eric.
agree.
Thank
I
you,
think it
Craig.
is too. I think it's
Thank you so
very
much.
important. And especially if you're talking about, like, I mean, my original question to this man was, could something similar to like what binaural beats do for human beings, could something environmentally equivalent be done to help provoke locational phenomenology? And that's why he directed me to that stuff. So
You know what? We could do a whole show on this, and we might
yeah,
have to. We might have to
well, we'll
do
move on.
a big dive onto this. So let's
We'll
talk
move on.
about that because
Yeah.
this is an excuse me. This is an area that absolutely fascinates me because I
I
think that
agree.
everything operates on a you know, you talk about the vibration, you know,
The frequencies.
yeah,
Things.
there's a
It
theory on it.
hurts.
I'm at a loss all of a sudden for the name of it, but it's but it talks about everything works on a frequency, a vibration, and yeah, if those gilsonite veins are down there and they are moving at a certain frequency,
Or it
vibrating,
could just be the tunnel. I mean, it could be if there's tunnels, it could be if there's a
yeah,
hollow space in the mesa. I mean, the thing that was interesting is that it doesn't have to, the spaces that they were examining were all different shapes and sizes. So it wasn't like, oh, it has to be this size.
yep,
But yeah,
yep,
I think it's
exactly.
really, really interesting.
Oh, Rebecca says Eric has mentioned that interested in measuring the background Schumann
Resonance on the
resonance
ranch.
on the ranch. Yep, see there.
Well, there you go. I mean, I
Yeah.
think
So,
it's
maybe
interesting.
I was looking at Scott Baldwin said, Jeffrey, maybe you could also ask Eric if he has considered a sound experimentation. Like in the movie. Well, you know, I do want to talk to him about communication. That's another subject that I want to get into him with, you know, about have they actually tried to do some sort of a communication in a way that we could understand? I mean, they are by shooting rockets up and that kind of stuff. They're trying to stimulate something happening, but I'm talking about a different type of communication. And he's got some interesting point. He actually told me a little bit, and he's got some interesting points on that. I think you guys are going to really enjoy what he has to say about that. So, because it's affected all of them in some way or another on the ranch and people
Yeah.
that, yeah, yeah. So cool stuff. All right. So, but anyway, I think it's quite possible. Now they talked about a black hole and all that kind of stuff. If a black hole was there, obviously, and somebody mentioned this in the chat, could a wormhole also affect something happening that would, start sucking all the earth right into this black hole? Yeah, it would probably have a negative effect if it was something like that. So it's not obviously something like that, and we don't completely understand all those anyway yet, black holes and whatnot. But obviously, it's not something that we perceive as destroying the earth, or people or anything else that we see getting sucked into it. But are things getting sucked into it? That's another show that we're going to be talking about later on. So, all right, let's move on. Next, I say the guys, Candace and Tom, and Dragon, and Eric, and they all head over to the Hutchins Museum Institute. They're going over there to meet with Ben again. Ben was out at the ranch. He was looking at those birds, those dead birds, and he also looked at the cow carcass to examine that. And he took some samples back to the lab with him. And now we're getting the layout of these samples. And right off the bat, he's over there talking to him a little bit. There's a whole shot of everyone. This is a week ago, showing the birds that he was looking at on that tray. And one of the things he pointed out then is that the brain, I didn't quite catch this completely last time, but the brain of this one, everything else was there, but the brain was gone. You can see it was literally removed out of the skull of this bird, but nothing else. So why was the brain taken out and nothing else? Don't know. But he said that as soon as he got it back to the ranch, or back to the lab and off the ranch, the body didn't start to finally decay, but the head did. Look at the difference between that head there. And this was according to him, without him doing anything to it. Look at it there. Look at that upper beak is one of the things too that I wanted to point out. The upper beak on it. I know these pictures are kind of gross. Sorry. Sorry, but look at the beak there, and then look at it here. Now, we're assuming this wasn't a long period of time between when he took them off the ranch. What in the heck at the ranch is causing something like that? And what would be causing this? And this is another little thing that kind of gets kind of squeamish on, but looking at this part of the flesh of this bird that has not shown any decay. It's not even started. It's still it's not hard and dried out. It's still flexible.
Squishy.
Squishy.
It's
I was going to say squishy. I think that's the technical term.
Squishy.
The technical term is squishy. Yes, thank you. How is that possible? He's not. I mean, I'm not a. What was the guy? What's his title again? I got to go look now. Biologist. I'm not a biologist. I have no idea why that would be the case. But if any of you out there are biologists and you have an idea on this, yeah, I know.
His face is so funny. He's like, ah.
His face was pretty fast. One of those befuddled, well, I don't know, surprised in that case, not befuddled, Eric faces, but yeah, he was kind of like, huh? Well, he did, and
it's gross. Is what it is.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, he actually smelled it. He said there was no smell. It should have smelled like decay. It should have smelled. Should have had a smell, and it had no smell at all. How do you explain that? I just
we know for a fact that both Travis and Thomas have been hit with radiation.
Yes,
and radiation would certainly kill enzymes and other things that should be decomposing that body, and is not.
Right.
So if it's happened to those two guys, it's certainly possible that birds in the wrong place at the wrong time, or just gets zapped and nothing's going to eat it, nothing's going to touch it.
Right, because they're going to sense there's something not good about this. Leave it alone. And that's where I'm so glad you brought that up, and B. Jones agrees with you also, but I think that's exactly what's happening, even though I can't prove that. I don't know if he did any radiation scans on these things. You would think he probably did, because they probably told him that it might it's a possibility, but they didn't talk about it on the show. But I mean, and you go back to that cow that died, years
First
ago,
one.
the
Yeah.
first one, and nothing would eat it. It just finally, eventually, it did flatten out into just a hide, but I mean, nothing would touch it for a long time.
Well, and now we have a good example of what happens to a cow that will be eaten
Yes,
by other things. That's what should have happened to that first cow that
correct.
died
Yes,
in season
Hmm.
one.
right.
Nothing touched it.
Nothing.
Nothing. So, yikes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And people say they would love to go to Skinwalker Ranch and just walk around. Really?
People are willing to climb the fence.
Look what happened to that
I think
bird.
I think people think that they're invincible until they're confronted with the fact that they're human and they are not invincible.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And this bird here, this is the one where he said it just looked like it was just like crunched twice. He made it. He emphasized twice. I don't know why he got that, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, all the bones are broken in multiple places, and he was demonstrating that to them. Um, so, I mean, again, this one did decompose, was decomposing the whole bird.
What's what's amazing is that the bird's bones are broken, but it doesn't have any exterior, like if it had been run over by a car, for example, or like hit a plane, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like it doesn't have any noticeable exterior injury for all of its bones to be broken. That seems like it had to have been, like, that reminds me of somebody grabbing a bird and like squeezing it to death
Yes.
rather than, we can't really see its head, so I don't know like what
Yeah.
its face might look like if there was, this is gross, but like bulging of the eyes or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that it had all these bones broken but nothing, you would expect there to be something on the outside.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Could the bird have slammed into a tower? Maybe.
If it had, you would have thought that it would have, you would have seen, it would have like exploded from the outside.
Mhm.
You would think at
Yep.
least some, I would imagine, like I've seen birds fly into windows
Oh
before,
yeah. Yep. Break a
and
neck.
there's
Yeah.
right, something with enough
That doesn't
force to break all their bones.
right.
You would think
But
that there would be some sort of pretty bad injury to the outside of its body.
Correct. Yeah. No contusions or impact injuries. Yeah.
Right.
It was just weird. Just like it was crushed a couple of times, like that guy showed there, but twice. I know. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Doesn't make any
So,
sense.
like you said earlier, and I think this is the case with maybe the other bird in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, they aren't seeing these laying around all over the place,
Right.
but I think it behooves more investigation into this, and I'm glad that they took this step. And why they've been looking at maybe having the veterinary doctor come out and look at the other ones that died last year, the bones that they found and stuff like that. I think it's an important thing to do. It's part of the scientific method to look into these things and find out what's going on. And then comes that bone analysis when they were talking about that rib bone and something that could bite through it. He did show some teeth on there that he said he put in a press, a drill press, and he was trying to push it through a portion of that bone and it wouldn't work. They broke the teeth. Again, he did, and we talked about this a little bit. And if you want to expand on that, either one of you guys, I agreed with what your analysis, because he went right to dire wolf. Um,
yeah, I kind of felt like he skipped a couple steps
mhm.
because he did a great job in the beginning, and I liked the test with the drill press. That was a good test. He didn't have mountain lion. We know they've seen mountain lions on the ranch.
Mhm.
He didn't try that tooth, but bear would probably have been about the sturdiest tooth you would have thought of anything that could have been around there. Um, and then he just didn't give any logical um, link of how he got to direwolf, other than he had a direwolf skull in the lab, which
Right.
is fine, but the canine tooth is conical, and so at some point any conical shape will fit in that hole.
Right.
So I don't quite understand why um, he made that leap. Maybe there was more to it, and we know that we only see a certain part of what's filmed, and
Right.
maybe there was a longer explanation of how he got there, and it just wasn't interesting
Yeah.
to put on TV. We don't know,
Mhm.
um, but a dire wolf, um, having been extinct for as long as it has, it just seems like I
13,000 years. Been extinct for
13,000
13,000
years.
years.
give or take a year. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Give or take a
roughly,
year.
but that was quite a leap, and they did also in the explanation of the Sherman, the experience the Shermans had, they called that a dire wolf too. I don't remember hearing them refer to that as a dire wolf before.
No.
I remember hearing it was a very large wolf, shot point blank.
Yep.
Chunks of it, flew after being shot. Didn't act like it had, was feeling anything, and
Mhm.
then trotted off. They started calling that a dire wolf too. So I don't know again exactly where the link was there that did that, because we don't actually know what dire wolves really looked like. We have their skeletons. There's plenty of skeletons from
Right.
the La Brea tar pits in California, but um, lineage wise, a dire wolf is not actually a wolf. They just evolved to look similar. It's actually closer related to a fox and
Mhm.
is somewhere between a fox and a jackal. So to call it a dire wolf now, to me seems um, like maybe there was more to the story that we didn't hear.
Right.
I don't know, but
It makes
um,
me wonder.
it's still clearly was made by a tooth of some kind.
Mhm.
It
Oh yeah.
makes me wondering if this is something that happened in like shot sequence. Like I do kind of, as we're discussing this, it's making me think like, because it seems front loaded, if that makes sense. It seems
Yeah,
like looking for something to fit something else. So it makes me wonder if like they found the thing in the river or the creek or whatever, dry gulch first, and then this part was shot like to back
that
up
made
Mhm.
more sense that way.
whatever. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what it sort of seems like now that I'm thinking about it, because it does seem very much like he's a biologist. He's obviously a very intelligent
Sure.
man to make that jump with no background of like, I feel like that's got to be at the mercy of some sort of like editing or like how it was put together, maybe not in sequence of events to sort
Right.
of
Yeah.
back up what might possibly be related to, because that's pretty coincidental just by itself that they would go to the Hutchings Museum and have this bone be matched with a direwolf, and then literally like the same episode they're finding an animal in the river that's got this huge canine. So to me that seems like something in post
Yeah.
being edited together into the same episode to draw sort of a line between the two.
I think you're
um
right. Yep. Very good point. And
Maybe
we
they
know
just
that
wanted
editing and that kind of editing happens. We just
That
know it. I
happens.
mean, we've
to,
been through
yeah, it
this on
has
Curse of
to.
Oak Island many times.
Yeah.
We've seen them do that kind of thing. And we know that they do have, well, I won't get into all that. Who has more right to say what's actually aired? But, and I'm going to go to this one last picture here. And this was a good point. And I've heard this talked about in the Bigfoot, talking about the Bigfoot things and his ability to, his or hers, the Bigfoot's ability, if they exist, ability to bite down and have a very incredible bite, a very strong bite. And he was talking about, and I don't know how to pronounce this. I saw somebody put it up in the chat a moment
Sagittal
ago about
crest.
this. What is it?
Sagittal crest.
Yes, up here on the top of the skull, this right
Yep.
here, having more muscle, the going down to the jaw to be able to have that extra power.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the
The
thing they talk about Bigfoot having that as well.
silverbacks have a
Yes.
huge sagittal crest because they
Yes.
have massive jaw muscles to be able to chew the
Yep.
the greeny plants that
Yep.
they consume. So
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah. So, that was kind of an interesting point. And again, a dire wolf, I had no idea. I did learn something, but again, you talk about the editing and we know that that's possible, that it was, a made for TV moment. But
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm more saying that like we don't know what came first, and obviously this is something that's going to be very strange to any public audience to sort of.
Mhm.
I definitely don't think it's manufactured by any means. I
No,
think that it was
no.
probably. I think it was probably grouped together to sort
Yep.
of draw a line.
Yep.
Um,
It would be a good question for Eric. Yes, Barbara. Yep. And I'll try to remember to talk to him about that. But yeah, I do not think that they stage anything. I think
Not
that
at all.
they
I
have
don't
admitted
either.
that they've said, "Oh, can you say that again?" because they missed it or whatever. But other than that, they don't tell them what to say. They never tell them what to say. Everything is caught the way it is, and um, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I
not going
mean,
to fake anything.
I think people also have to understand like it wouldn't be surprising if things have to be reshot and spoken again, and they're not actors. So if it seems like it's a certain way, it's more evidence to the fact that they're not actors. And they
Mhm.
probably like when you're making a television show, you're at the mercy of like your boom mics working correctly, the shots being right so they can be, people are out of frame. Like there's so many different technical details to making a television show. So I mean, there's no true reality show in that sense unless somebody constantly filming with their cell phone. Like,
Right,
of course, they're going to have to run through stuff. Like, they might have an experience and then go, let's run this again, but get it from a different angle.
right,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yep. And yeah, so yeah, you're right. Jim said Eric would not allow them to stage or script it. No, he would not.
No, he would not.
I don't think any of them
Definitely.
would. They
I
wouldn't
don't
be part
either.
of it if that were the case,
Yeah.
for sure. So, but anyway, so so this was brought up, and we'll find out more. We might have to ask Eric about it and see what his thoughts are on this. And in the last picture I had on this particular segment was the look on Dragon's face of kind of like, you're saying what out there on the ranch? You know,
Like he didn't have enough problems.
right? He doesn't have enough problems. Now you're gonna what? A dire wolf? We
He's
talked
like,
about back
great.
in like season one where they used to, carry the rifle
The,
or the shotgun and stuff.
it's
Yeah.
like time to get the big gun out again.
Yep.
I just start carrying the rifle around again. Yeah, I'm gonna
Now we
need
know
that.
why.
Yeah,
Now we
now
know
we
why
know
they have
why they
them.
had those because of the chance of a dire wolf coming out of a nowhere and yeah, starting to attack people.
I mean, they
Yeah,
took
he
what
did.
looked like a machete into the river, so
Yeah,
they've got some weaponry.
definitely, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and Scott had made a comment here too. I was going to roll back to it real quick and then I will move on. Did they ever say where on the ranch the bodies were found? No, we know where the
The
cow
birds,
was. The cow was out underneath that tree,
but not the
uh,
birds.
very close to where the other one, but the two birds, we have no idea. They
I
never
imagine
said.
if it was near the triangle or some one of those places, they would have specified.
They
So it
probably would
must
have said.
have been somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found about a week and a half or so apart is what they did say. Yeah. Thank you, coach. But where we don't know. Yeah. Got to get the big rifle. Miriam says, Dragon carrying the big rifle again. You might have to. So, okay. So after the Hutchins Museum, and I got a feeling we're going to see more of Ben in the future.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Oh, the one last point I want to make about that too was that the dire wolf, if it was a dire wolf, whatever it was that the Shermans shot at and hit, did run. They did track it. It went to the river that they were in the latter part of the show, and that's where the track stopped. They were not able to pick up the tracks coming out of it. They went, looked for them and stuff. And they never did find the tracks again. So, where did it go? No one knows at this point. So. In the next part of the show, they end up going back to the triangle. Now, this is where I was saying that Eric said, let's get over there really quick and try to set something up. And while this is still active, and so they headed over to the triangle. I love this shot of it because you can kind of see what we were talking about before, these roads. It looks like this was a fence line right here at some point, this line here. So maybe it was just a Y, this triangle. Who really knows for sure? Um, yeah.
Because there's never a structure there, right?
No.
Like,
Oh,
uh,
no.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why they would have went around this. Yeah. So, but it made a nice little triangle. So a place for them to call it, give it a name of where they're having all this high strangeness going on. So, and here's another shot. And this was one I grabbed this picture here just simply because you think about, and this is probably a production drone that's up here, but even
Yep.
the production drone's got to be kind of expensive. And this rocket
Yeah.
looks like it came kind of close to hitting the damn thing.
I thought about that too. I'm like, boy, they
Mhm.
were pretty much right over top of it.
Yeah, they're right over top of the
And
launch
you
pad. And
can't
look at
predict
this.
where that rocket's gonna go.
I don't think I'd be flying mine over there. If I had one, to
But
fly it right.
but it is interesting to note because I noticed this. So they did have a production drone in the air. We know those use GPS, yet you see what happened to the rocket's GPS.
Mhm.
Mm.
Clearly, the production drone was functioning correctly.
Yeah, at least at this moment it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't ever talk about the production drones. They have said that they've had trouble. They have admitted that microphones, batteries dying, equipment not working, drones crashing. They said they have admitted that that does happen, but they never talk about it on the show.
I
So
mean, they do a good job of not breaking that,
yeah,
the fourth wall, where
fourth
it's
wall.
like
Yeah, yep.
we never see the production crew, but we know they're there,
Mhm.
and we know behind the scenes what's been shared that they've had lots of equipment failure. So it's possible that a drone failed and they just didn't say anything about it, just like they've never said anything about production stuff before, except for behind the scenes.
Right. Let's see here. So there's another shot of the triangle as they're setting everything up, getting the rockets ready to go. Because again, the rockets seem to stimulate stuff. I had to show this picture of Eric doing his acrobatics here I don't know if
Mm,
he's up here checking wires on an
OSHA
antenna or what.
approved climbing.
for sure.
was
The
all
guy
good.
does it all. I mean, he does have Thomas to go and help in a lot of this kind of stuff, but yeah, he'll do it too. So I thought that was kind of cool. Here's they call this the black box. Is that what this is? Yep.
Yes, it is. I remember when he was, I think a lot
He
of
was
us do
painting it
remember when he was painting it.
and almost passed out from the fumes. We're
I
like,
was
get
literally
out
gonna
of there.
I was gonna say that was my first thought when we were watching this show. I was like, oh, that's the black box where Eric like passed out because of the
Mhm.
fumes from he himself painting it.
Yes.
He went in there every day and literally painted it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
nice to
They don't.
see it like this though.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of funny because they do a lot of that. They do the work themselves, and
They
rather
do
than
all the work themselves. I don't think I've ever heard of them outsourcing people to come in and for stuff like that.
Rarely.
yep,
Rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
for that kind of stuff. Yeah, they bring in a drill rig or something like or a crane or something once in a while for stuff. But yeah, to build things like this, yeah, the black
they
box, pretty
they
interesting.
work really, really hard. Like it's ridiculous.
It is
The amount of
all year round, not just during the film season. These guys are
yeah,
always out there doing stuff.
yeah. I mean, literally the black box being built was all done in the off season and that I mean, they're the ones doing it.
Yep.
So I think that's another thing that people don't realize who watch the show and don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Is any
Exactly.
length.
Yep.
So
Yep.
but
Coach said should
anyways,
have 24/7 eyes on the triangle. I bet they do. I mean,
Oh,
if you're
they
a
have the
part of the
cameras.
insider program, what's that?
Yeah, the cameras from the
Yeah.
insider
hmm
program.
Yeah. Yeah, we got the cameras on the insider program are phenomenal, and we've got 4 views right now. It's quad view screens that we get to watch. There's information down below if you want to check out being an insider. There's a link down below for it. It does have a cost to it, I think, but I know things are changing in that realm. I won't get into all of that right now, but you can still.
the
Um,
cost hasn't changed,
okay.
so the cost is the same. It's
Mhm.
what is it? If you it's $8 a month if you're doing it as a yearly subscription, which is I think 99 math. Eight
Something
times
like
12.
that. It's a little
Yeah,
cheaper if you pay
99.
all at once.
Yeah.
Right. Versus you can
Yeah.
pay $10 a month. And it's if you're a fan of the show, then it's well worth
Yeah.
the money
Yeah, it truly
for it.
is.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been a part of it since almost from the beginning, just shortly after it started.
Yeah.
96
There you go.
annually. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, because 8 times 12 is
There you go. Woo!
don't judge. Don't judge me. My brain stopped working a little while ago.
Yeah, 96
Uh,
a year or $10 a month. Yeah. So, but it is a great, great program. It really
mhm.
is. And I love to go out there and watch the cameras and look for, your own anomalies or help them with certain things that is, because there's weird stuff that we've seen. And
Mm.
and Eric is popping in there all the time, and the guys will pop in once in a while and just talk about stuff. I mean, it's really,
It's
really
crazy.
cool.
Do you know how
Um,
cool it is that you watch the episode of a show and you have a question about it and you can pop it into this place and literally like Eric or Caleb or somebody within a day is answering it for you? That's amazing. Like, are you kidding me? Then there's a whole group of people that are fans too that you get to talk to about your theories and your thoughts and
yep.
stuff. It's just great.
And there's no dumb questions and there's no dumb theories. I mean, we all share that kind of stuff back and forth equally about what's
Hmm.
going on there. It's really cool. So, yeah, it is a really, really cool program. I love being part of it. I
Me
love the
too.
interaction with everybody, and then getting to, throw some stuff out to Eric once in a while, or Caleb or Thomas or whoever might be on. And yeah, it's just
It's the
really a great
best.
program. Really
I
is.
can't even imagine joining now because
Yeah,
that
there's
last
so
I
much.
counted up all of the videos they've done, how many hours that is, and I
Mhm.
I lost track. Last I checked, it was like 75. I'm sure it's up to 100 hours.
Mhm.
100
Yeah,
hours of video of them
yeah.
answering insider questions
Yeah,
And
in
that
chips and salsa or
yeah,
one-on-one talks or explanations, but most of it is the group answering questions from insiders.
yep,
Almost
and
every
that
question you can think of has been answered.
yep,
that doesn't cover the fact that like literally at any point any of them could be in the YouTube chat where you're
Yeah,
watching the
live.
cameras or like in the voice channel or just putting a ton of behind the scenes stuff. Like I can't the things that we've logged since 2 years ago when it started, there are thousands of things logged at this point that people have caught on the cameras. Some of them perhaps unusual, some of them maybe not, but it's still the ranch and getting to interact with it and like log things. It's
mhm.
just it's I don't know. It's really, really special.
It is. It really is.
Unlike anything else.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unprecedented in the reality TV show world. Unprecedented for sure. It's really a cool program. Um,
It's it's like it was I mean, we know why it was designed, but it's truly like an attempt to show what they can't show on television,
yep,
which is the reality of it.
right.
Like when you were talking about earlier, like how you talk to people who were like, "Oh, that's all made up."
Hmm.
I'm like, "Man, if you saw the other side of it, you
Yep,
wouldn't be saying that."
right. Exactly.
So,
So true. So anyway, there's a link for it down below if you want to check it out. You can click on that link and then join the do the. Do they still do the free trial? I'm assuming they probably do that as well. But I know they
I
had a free trial
think
for a while,
so. I
for a week or so
think
or something like that.
I'm not sure about that one. We've
Yeah.
just sort of changed over to a new system
Hmm.
because the group has grown so large and it just a better, more efficient system where everybody can interact in the same place. And so it's kind of transitioned. And I'm not 100% sure if we still have the week free, but I think so. I don't think they've changed that.
Yeah, I
And you
don't
get a
think so.
shirt. You get a
Yeah,
shirt
and you
as
get a
well,
shirt.
I
Mhm.
think,
Yeah.
globally. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, the little brochure had a picture with me and with the guys. We were with
Yeah.
all the team members. It was me and Jim and Roger. We were standing there with them, and that was in the brochure. I was at Phenomicon. That was really cool. So yeah, a little
Hmm.
special moment for me to be in the brochure.
It's
Anyway, I
really
digress
cool.
on that. So yeah, it was kind of cool. I was pretty proud of that. But so yeah, and so you got Tom and Candace for helping out on this when they went back out. They had the high speed camera, which again the guys have figured out they need one of those. Got to have a high speed camera around.
They were on that new building, by the way. I was
Yes.
going to mention that
Hmm.
that new building, you could tell that it was for observation. At least it was intended for people to be up there. You don't put a railing on top of a building unless you plan
Correct.
on being up there.
Right. Yeah.
So it was good to see that they're using that for um, being able to observe the
Hmm.
ranch and stuff.
Yeah, and
So
that's right on the other side of the helipad from the command center. So you
So-
saw it. It was very clear in the pictures from last week when they were landing, or the first week when they were landing the 2 helicopters. You could see it out there. The second helicopter had to land on the other side of it. But yeah, really cool that they were able to observe the triangle from there with the high-speed camera. There's the triangle and getting everything ready to go. They got antennas out there. I mean, they got the whole world. They know what to bring now, at least and they're always trying new stuff. Yeah, they brought their own high-speed camera rather than working. I forgot the guy's name that they worked with before. Burdette. Yeah. Yep. And so right off the bat, they shoot a rocket up and then they look at the GPS on it and it's all out of whack. The GPS shows it going up about 100 feet or so and then turning and flying flat for a while and then making another turn and looping around. And it's like, what in the heck is that all about? Didn't make any sense at all. Here's another look at that same one. The interesting thing, and you can see clearly on it, didn't do that. It's flying, well, it's curving a little bit there, but it's generally flying straight up. It's not flying level for a little ways and
Yep.
and then making a big circle or anything like that. And the interesting part of it was that it happened, according to Eric, it happened on all of them that they shot that afternoon, which I don't know, was that 4, 5, 3? We don't know for sure. I know it was more than or 3 or more. So all of them did it. So you kind of go back to repeatable. Again, why does that happen? Why does it show a GPS in the wrong area? Would a anomaly of some sort above that, because they're talking to satellites, right? And
Right.
you talked about this before. You kind of took us through it. How
Yeah.
many satellites are talking to it at the same time, or is it receiving?
Well, there has to be a minimum of 4
Wow.
to know your location in space.
Okay.
So it has to be at least 4. It's normally talking to many more than that. Many more. So for it to either not be getting enough of a signal or getting, um, you know, low signal, because if there's something above the ranch or above the triangle that's blocking the signal, the best signal is always coming from the satellites that are directly overhead or as
Correct.
close to that. The less desirable signal is the one on the horizon, because that signal is going through the ionosphere and that can cause a little bit of interference.
Yep.
But again, even though the rocket, can you go to one of the traces of the GPS trace? Yeah. Even though that's going up in the air, keep in mind the rocket actually went 2,000 feet up.
Yes.
And so what this is showing, again, time and time again, GPS data significantly lower in height than it should be. Yeah, there's some movement north, south, east, west, along the if you trace it on the ground, but the one that's the most dramatically off is the height. And that's
Yes.
only like 100 feet, maybe
Right.
200 feet, and it went 2,000. So again, I go back to the only way that can happen is if the signal is, you could be blocking signals and it's getting a reflection of a signal off the mesa, but that's not a very big distance
No.
from there to the mesa for a reflection. That would cause a delay and that would make it think it might be lower. I I don't know. It's
So
very odd.
Yep.
so it makes me think about the fact that they show stuff underground that's not supposed to be
Right.
underground. So like,
Exactly.
would it potentially be a proper 2,000-foot measurement if it was taken from the starting point that shows up underground?
Yeah.
Like, let's say it's wrong. It's obviously wrong, but when
Mhm.
they show it underground, let's pretend that the starting point is the first point when it's below ground. Would it be reaching would it be reaching according to that scale 2,000 feet? It's just starting way
Not
way lower.
not in every case. No. It's not one for
In some
one.
cases,
Correct.
1 for 1.
You know,
Okay.
like Jay's data, that to me, that one was the cleanest. It was very clean, at least on the screen to be
Mhm.
able to look at. that showed they went about 1,000 feet underground,
Yeah.
and they were walking on the surface of the earth the whole time. So
Yeah.
clearly, it even in this case, like I said, it's not a perfect ratio of any kind. But it is definitely affecting
It's so strange.
altitude, right? But it
Mhm.
didn't affect the production drone. Now,
Right.
we don't know for certain because we know there's editing that has to go on. I get that. So we don't know for certain that this GPS trace is the one that the production drone was filming when it went up, for sure. But clearly, they got one of the rockets to go up with a production drone that wasn't affected. Now, again, you go you to step up in sophistication. You go from the little GPS units they're using, the rockets, to a much more sophisticated and a production drone, to the helicopter, which has redundancy
Yep.
for good reason. So,
For good
and yet
reason.
all of them have been affected at different times. Um, so that's I just have
So
no idea
maybe
what's
I
going on.
misunderstood. Is it? I thought that the rocket, like they saw it go
And straight up,
a certain
basically,
height and
for the
right, but the
yep,
GPS on it was wrong. So the production
correct,
drone though
was fine.
wasn't being GPSed, was it?
It
Like they
didn't
weren't tracking the GPS on it, so it was
they didn't
doing
track
exactly
it.
what the rocket was doing, like its job, like it was doing what it was supposed to be doing.
The the rocket did what it was supposed to. The rocket GPS got bad
Didn't
data. The
right?
production drone GPS, because it has to have GPS to fly, period.
Mm,
There's no other way to fly them. So its GPS was working correctly, or we wouldn't have seen that footage.
makes sense.
So something affected the maybe less sophisticated
Hmm.
GPS unit that was on in the rocket, but didn't affect um, the production drone.
Yep.
So I
That's a good question for Eric.
That's a
yeah
good question for Eric. Yeah, interesting.
yep I don't know. Something's causing a delay in the GPS signal,
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and
So it
Michelle
changes the
says
position.
that go ahead.
Michelle just said that the production drones were being flown by hand, not pre-programmed.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
but they would still have GPS to know where
Where it
their
was. Right.
altitude. And I mean, if it loses signal, kind of like it did in the last episode, if it loses signal, uh, regardless if it's running a program or if you're manually controlling it, it knows where home is, and
Right.
that's through GPS.
But that's a
But
very
you're
good
right;
point.
it is being manually controlled.
Yeah.
That may have some effect on it.
And it
That's a
may
really good
have,
point.
because that's what happened with the drone from last week when it had a pre-programmed flight pattern to
Right,
fly, and it messed up. So that's a very good
that's a
point.
fair
So I'm
point.
glad that was brought up. Yeah.
It also implies, I'm not sure if she intended it that way, but drones, plural. I wonder if there was more than one drone that was flying
Well, you can never have
during that
enough.
period of time. There are lots of people that would agree with that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Um, but I wonder if there were several drones, and so they were able to use one of them. Who knows? It's interesting.
Yeah, surely. And then we're going to jump into that a little bit more here because I get over to the command center to start looking at all the data that they captured. They shot several rockets. According to Eric, all of them had issue with the GPS and they were all basically showing the same pattern, even though they were going up 1,500, 2,000 feet. They were all showing the same 130 feet up and then making this weird little pattern, circular pattern, like it was flying in circles or something. Um,
Pete
oh,
Kelsey
Pete Kelsey.
to the
What
rescue.
do you say? The question
I was
is,
He was in my mind when I said lots of people would run drones. That was who I was thinking about. There he is.
like the rockets, what was the production drone's GPS track?
Right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just don't know. Yeah. Pete, how you doing, Pete? Good to see you out there. Thank you for hopping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting. Did you all gather up in the command center and they start looking? Here's another one of the drones patterns right here. You can see did about the same kind of thing. Did not go straight off the ground, made a weird pattern. And this is where he compared the pattern down below at about 150 feet to where the actual rocket went. 2,000 feet, basically straight up, and yet the GPS does not show that.
Another question I would have is
Mhm.
if you stretched all those dots out, would they actually go up
Make
to
the
2,000
2,000
feet?
feet.
Is it linearly a track that's 2,000 feet long, or did it not? I mean, is it missing points? I mean, there it looks like there's some points that are missing. Um, or did it not track even the whole way? Did it stop
I
sending
don't know.
data at 1,000 feet, yet it
Right.
went to 2,000 feet?
That's a
And
good
Well, I
that's
guess it
all
question.
the
would
data we
be,
got.
yeah, I guess it would be how often does it send
Yeah,
make one of these nodes, these little dots,
right.
how often does it do that? And the speed of which it's traveling, then I think it probably would. It probably would reach 2,000 feet if you struck it straight up, because when they were showing the drone flying, they were very close together. The drone from last
Right.
week and on
Yep.
the ground here. But as a rocket flying straight up that fast, just would the dots be stretched out a little bit? I don't know. Good question. Another one. Another good question to ask. Um, that was another one there. And then they got on the subject talking about when Juniper magnetometer survey was done, and then Lunasonde was there, and Jeremy Pate, and they both talked about a place where you see this happening right here, where it indicated the possible tunnel underground. So here you've got the Lunasonde, these big purple dots and the big yellow ones right here. Then you've got the different drones pattern, and then you've got the magnetometry survey underneath that. And it all indicated that basically right in this area here, if I understand that correctly, was supposed to be some sort of a possible tunnel or opening or something going on underground that needs to be investigated further.
I'd like to see a control against this, like them to repeat this in a different area of the ranch that isn't known for unusual activity to see.
Shoot from
Ah,
the helipad.
Yeah, I'd like to see like as much of a control as you could do comparatively
right.
for
Yeah.
that.
See what it
Because
shows up there.
yeah, because I'd like to know. I think it would be interesting and important data to have if they did it in a different area of the ranch and they were able to successfully do it without any issue at all.
Right.
That having those two sets of data next to one another, I think would be
That's a
a
perfect
good
point.
thing to have. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. We need to get on the insider program and suggest that to them.
Yeah. Well, we can ask Eric about it next
We
week.
can ask her about it. Eric about it next week. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Just like the repeatable. If you take two different areas, do you get the same results, or do
Yeah,
you
I
get
mean,
no
part of the
results?
science and the repeatable is that you oftentimes need to have a control
Right.
Yep.
as well.
For sure.
And I
Absolutely.
think we assume that the control is the normal behavior that something is supposed to exhibit. But if we're
Right.
talking about a location, I think it is important to establish what the base is at that location first, and then
Yeah. Just like when they did the transmission of the 1.6 gigahertz signal through the mesa, a lot of people asked, why didn't they do a baseline and make sure they knew how far the signal went
Mm,
and check and see? Eric got onto the insider website and answered that question. They did. It's
there
not
you go.
very exciting to
Exciting.
show on TV. So it didn't
No,
make it in. So
of
we
course
know
not.
that stuff happens all the time.
yeah.
That's why the insider program is such a huge insight into what's really going on.
Yep.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that understand that you need that control when
Yep.
you're doing an experiment and think, they're not really doing real science. Well, they are. They just can't show it all because not all of it's all that entertaining.
Right.
No, most science, the
Boring.
experiment part, it's real boring. Like it's a lot of running tests and
Yep.
watching stuff in silence for half an hour or
Or
whatever,
more.
like
Yep.
Right.
or
Absolutely.
more.
Yep.
But
And they're not
I
going to
think,
show us all that.
well, I wouldn't make for great television, that's for
No.
sure.
Yeah.
Unless you're using it to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But you got 42 minutes to fill. What are you going to put in that 42 minutes? Give them the highlights. You know,
Right.
is what they got to do. You know, and
Less
less
than
That's
more
right.
1% of everything they did
Yeah.
is what we see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It'd be worth asking, though, I think.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Yep. So what they do next is they bring up Eric says, "Oh, I got more," and they're like, "You got more?" Yes, he has more. The high speed camera
Gosh, this
actually
episode
captured.
has so
I
much in
know.
it.
I know this
It's
is
so,
and we're not
there's
even done. We got a whole other segment to get to yet.
so much in this episode.
I knew this
Yeah.
Oh
was
my
going to be a
God.
long one here
You know,
tonight.
go back and
Agreed.
watch any episode from season 1
Mhm.
and you'll be like asleep.
I
Yeah,
know. This
I
is
mean, compared to
wild.
it's
when you're
just
used to this.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. On to the next weird thing.
No, seriously, yeah. This is, and here they got, and so they captured this, and this is that one where he does the a particular background to it. I forget what he calls it now.
Embossing.
Embossing. Thank you. Yeah, the embossing background, so you can get a look at this thing. And you see these two little bumps on it. You know, I'm going to get out my little pen here, but you see these little bumps on both sides of this rod. I'm going to call it a rod. I don't know what else to call the darn thing. But you see those two little bumps there in this one. But then you've got, and then he zoomed in on it a little bit. You see again, you see the two little bumps on the sides of this thing. And then here I got a sequence of pictures here, and I'm going to kind of click through them real quick because, and pay attention, if you would, to these again, these two little white, I don't know, wings. And they came up with that question right off the bat. Is it a bird? Is it a bug? Is it something that we know that flies with wings?
It looks like a sky whale. That's what it looks like. I think it looks like a sky whale.
There you go.
Vesta May said the same thing last night when I saw it. I was like, "Oh my God, it looks like a whale in the sky." Sorry.
Yeah, no, it does. It's so cool.
It is.
But what pay attention to those as I've clicked through these because you can see them actually move, but not in a way that wings would move. And I'll click through them real quick and I can go back. So you got that one. And I'll go back and show those again. So here in slow motion. So right now they're kind of folded back in the midsection. Next picture. The one is still in the one on the, I'm going to call it on the right side just because I don't know what else to say it. But the one on the left seems like it's moved up now. Now you see the one on the right, and the one on the left is kind of gone. But you also see this little lighted area here and something on the back of it right here. Okay. And then on the final one, if I can get my mouse back, here we go. Now the one on the left is completely gone. The one on the right is still kind of in the mid frame. And then you've got this dot on the top right here. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, could it have been a bug that flew by real fast? Again, I've seen stuff like that. They call them rods when you're looking at them as a bug when you're doing like a paranormal investigation or whatever, and you see a bug fly by real fast. It stretches it out, but you can see the wings. You can actually pick that up a little bit.
Yeah, they've been seeing this shape a lot more.
Mhm.
And you know, anybody that's seen the cameras, the live feed through the Insider program has seen plenty of bugs.
Mhm.
There's
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of bugs out there. Um, this doesn't look like that. Birds don't look like this.
I've
We've seen enough
yeah.
of that you just can tell you
Yep.
don't see the. I mean, bugs. A lot of times you can see their wings, you can see legs, you can make out the shape. And remember, this was the high speed camera, so this
Yes.
is I
Yeah.
think running at 10x. It's 10 times faster. So
Yeah.
their normal camera would run 24 frames per second. This was at 240 frames per second. And
Mhm.
this is one frame every time he moved was one
Right.
240th.
Now, this is the same type of camera that Burdette, is that the same Burdette used?
No,
No.
No, it's
no.
different.
So
It's
Burdett's was significantly higher end,
okay, but we
much
still
faster,
saw.
much
I
faster.
was trying to use that to try to understand. Like, there's no blur around this. Like
Right.
what we see with wing oscillation, like
Yep.
when bugs are moving or birds are
Pixelation.
moving,
Yeah.
that we see like that slight just tiny bit of blur that exists around it that lets you know, even though you can't see the wings themselves, that they're moving because of it. And you don't see any of that with this.
No.
Right.
Like, it is just,
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a streak. I mean, on the live feed camera, that's different. That's running a much slower frame rate. Yeah, a bug can sometimes look a little bit elongated as if it's close to
mhm.
the camera.
Mhm.
But this was high speed, and it's so that's really what it looks like. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't know.
And
Yeah.
it appears to be reflective to an extent because of as it's
Yes.
moving, it's changing. Like, it looks like it's reflecting light.
Yeah. Part of it is. It's again, and the thing of it was, um, oh, can you run through that sequence again? Yeah, I'll do it a couple more times here. Um, so there it is there. It looks like wings folded back or whatever they are.
Jerry N says seems like maybe a high-speed camera would freeze wing motion, which is why I was asking about Burdett, because we still saw that blur on his cameras and they were very high speed.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
So I don't know. I feel like even if it were freezing it, we would still see some sort of indicator that it was a wing flap.
Yeah. And not only did it happen once, but they actually captured 3 of them. There's another one, and there's another one, all within a short period of time. And they thought, was that the rocket going up? Nope, it's not the rocket. What the heck is it? I don't know. It's another, and I'm going to call it a UAP because we don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny that Eric called it a UAP because he very rarely uses that.
That's
I
very.
was
careful.
taken back by him saying that on the episode because
Mhm.
that's something that he doesn't use lightly. Like, that's not his word that he typically uses.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, B. Jones. Oh my gosh. Congrats on getting Eric Bard. This podcast is full of we have to ask Eric. Yeah, I know. It truly is. But he loves being challenged. He loves being asked questions. I always have to make sure that when I was talking about this last week about when you ask Eric a question, be prepared to follow it up because he may ask you, "Tell me a little bit about your thinking on that. Why were you going that route?" And you got to be prepared to answer that. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can't just throw that question out and expect it to sit back then and be quiet and listen to the answer because he's going to want to know why you were thinking that way. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And he may do that with any of you that asked that question in the chat next Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. So be
I
prepared.
mean, that's how he taught me how to, like, way back at the beginning, how he taught me what was a bug and a bird and
Mhm,
whatever. Is he'd be like, no, what is it about this?
mhm.
And then that's why he's such a great teacher, because he gets you to think
Yep.
more critically about things and sort of
Yes.
understand why the answers are the way that they are, and
Yes. Thank
that
you.
way they stick. So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. If he can
we
get you
bet.
to understand it completely or get to understand the whole side of your question and the answer to that question, you're better to retain it
That's
at that
exactly
point. Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yep. Yeah. Makes total sense. So, and I'll say real quick too that in our Facebook group page, the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, if you go there, there's a link for that below. That's where Linda Simpson, she's popped into the chat a couple of times here. She has put up a post for questions for Eric Bard. And I think it's out there already. So if you go there, you can post your question. I can't promise I'll get to every single one of them. We can't have Eric on. Well, he probably would go all night
Yeah, he
because he
would,
has.
but we can't.
He's gone
Nope.
hours and hours into the wee hours of the morning, and
That's
I
because
don't know.
time moves differently there.
Yes,
It does.
clearly. That must be it. He does not
Our
sleep.
8 hours is his 4 hours.
Yeah, or less. Yeah.
That's right. He
But yeah, he
requires
does.
less.
I don't know if we could. I don't think I could keep up with him. Let's put it that way for the podcast. So
Many
there you
have
go.
tried, all have failed.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a couple of people that may be
Stick
able to
with him.
say that they've done it, but that
Not for extended period though.
I mean, at some point, he's. But that's what's so great. Like,
Mhm.
how cool is that? That he's spending so much time talking and showing things,
It's
and
very, very
yeah,
cool. Yes, one of the benefits of being an insider, he does share some stuff with you.
yeah, he does.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh, and
goodness.
he teaches you at the same time. But anyway,
Hmm.
all right. So the last segment of the show, the guys go kayaking.
Hmm.
Actually, they go wading, and they're dragging the kayak along. They go over to the Dry Gulch Creek, which is not so dry at the moment. And this shows where on the ranch it is. So it runs from the east side over here all the way right across to the kind of not all the way to the west side, of course, but the east field is way up here off there. There's a triangle right here at the top, so you can see where it runs. Um, and when they put in those trail cams, they put them in. It was over in this area over here on the other side of the creek, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
by the fence line. Um, but they packed up, they got some gear, and again, GPSs, and they've got some. Let's see, it's in my notes that Jan Anderson did for us again. She did the notes for the show. Very good job.
Thank you, Jan.
Yes.
Yeah, and she has in here that it was packed up with GPS, radiation, and energy devices, and they've loaded it all up, and they were pushing it down the creek. Now, right off the bat, when Thomas, they're all suited up, ready to go. Thomas calls Eric on the radio, and Eric says, guys, we got a little bit of a problem. And he's staring at this one screen right here in the middle. And if you see what that's showing, and I'll get another picture of this real quick, um, it's almost the Jay Stratton effect,
Yep.
Yep.
where it's showing the guys 5,000 feet underground. 5,000 feet
Here we
underground.
go again.
Hmm.
So Kevin had asked a question about military spoofing GPS. That the spoofing the GPS is just making the receiver think it's not where it is, and you want it to appear as natural as possible. You don't want to make it think it's 5,000 feet below the surface of the ground. That's the wrong way to spoof something. But it's just a different signal that you're sending. So again, like I said, it seems like even though it's not completely the same every single time, one thing that does seem to be affected the most is the altitude on the GPS signal. And look at that slow descent down to 5,000 feet. I don't know that they were even moving at that point. They had
They weren't.
um,
They were setting
wandered
up.
their way over there, right? And we're just setting up,
Right.
and it's slowly showing them. So again, that's why I like that display and the J data, because it shows a slow um, a slow progression of the amount of time that it takes for the GPS signal to reach that receiver.
Right.
And the longer it takes to reach that receiver, the lower that dot goes.
Right.
So something is, I hate to say it, but say it this way, but something is slowing time down, right?
Yeah,
It's
it sure
taking
seems that
longer
way.
to get through, to get from what should be the surface of the Earth and the satellites.
Mhm.
It's taking longer to reach there.
Yep.
Something is slowing that down. That's affecting time,
Yeah.
which seems to come up again and again as time issues.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Right over here, you see them at the command center.
right,
That's all the GPS data at the command center. This line
take the
here is
road
them
down.
driving all the equipment over, following the little road to get over to the creek where they were launching the kayak,
Yep,
and then they were sitting right here at the kayak, and then that is when you see all the rest of it doesn't look like it's affected at all.
right.
Period. I mean,
It
it
was
was
fine until
simply
they
they were
got there and
driving over
stopped.
there. And then when they were in the kayak or getting ready to launch in the water, that's when it started to go down.
That doesn't make any sense.
It does not. It makes no sense.
That don't make
It
no dang
doesn't.
sense.
What I will say about this part is that I loved seeing Eric in the command center while all the other guys were out waiting in the creek. I can imagine that conversation
He
being
is a
very
smart
much like,
guy.
He is
somebody's
very
got to watch the
It's like,
equipment. You
oh,
guys go.
have
Um,
fun. crawling around in that, and it had to be hard because you see how
Yeah,
uh,
it was,
it looked like it was
yeah.
very, very difficult. Yeah, I was gonna. Somebody had said something here. I wanted to say. Oh, Jenny of Coldstone said this right here. Makes you wonder what is 5,000 feet underground right there. I thought about that myself. Now we know, like Mike was just explaining to us that something is blocking that GPS signal from above, a time delay, something's happening, and it's getting worse and worse and worse as the delay gets bigger. I think to put it further and further underground. But how many times have we seen it showing something underground? And was it around the same spot? Well, we know this wasn't because this is over by Dry Gulch Creek and they haven't been over there doing stuff, at least on TV, that much. Jay Stratton wasn't, he was on the road going over to Homestead 2 when it showed that line going down. But is it something underground that's affecting it as well? That's kind of what I was thinking, Jenny, on that. To comment on your comment was that I was thinking that too is a possibility. It's we know it's being blocked or obscured in some way, but is there something down below that's causing it weird? I don't know. There's been a lot of rumor that there is something below the ranch. So yeah, there it is again. Looking at it way down there. I don't know. It just makes you weird. I think that something weird is going on. Do the overlay on this on that space. Do the overlay on that space and see if one of those. Oh,
Questions that deep. I don't remember how deep
um,
those things were.
I need Zane for that. Zane is one of the guys that helps me out with the overlays from the Curse of Oak Island show. I don't think he watched it. He said something about I'm gonna have to start watching that show. He didn't watch the Skinwalker Ranch, but he loves to do those overlays. I might have to work on that. So yeah,
Yeah, that
good.
makes me think about, remember when all the water disappeared?
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
They found
Which
that hole and they dumped that
Yeah.
dye-colored water in there, and it's just gone.
which indicates that there's open space under there, which brings me back to the
Yes.
thoughts on like the sound stuff and the strangeness, because there's
Yep.
clearly open space
Yep.
all over that place.
Yep.
Hmm.
And water running underground, especially if it's moving pretty quickly, can cause.
Yep,
I think it can disturb magnetic field. Maybe
can do a lot of things.
can do a lot of things.
Depends on what's in it. Yeah.
Mhm. Exactly. So finally, the guys finally do get launched, and they make their way. We don't have any idea how far along this thing, if they traverse the whole thing or not. But
They
there's
were
another. Huh?
actually
Go
go
ahead.
back to the diagram of the creek there. So according to the what the data was showing, you see where the creek on the left side is straight, where
Yep.
it takes that first bend and goes
Oh, down
north.
here.
Yeah, where it takes that first bend and goes north. They were right
Okay.
at the edge of the property. Yeah, down there, right there. That's where they started,
That's where they
and then
started down
went
here in this
east.
area.
Yeah, if you match up the GPS signals that showed them getting
Ah,
out there,
yep.
that's where it ended, and then that descent down 5,000 feet. So they didn't go all the way over to the very edge there
Hmm.
on the left side,
All right.
but I think Travis even mentioned, we've walked this creek a long ways, but in a straight line, they didn't get very far
Right.
because it winds so much.
Yep. So, and we never saw the GPS after that, and maybe they'll show that next week. I'm hoping we'll get to find out. But again, there's another look at them making the whole the GPS data. Here they are walking along, and they're dragging all their equipment behind them, and making sure that they don't dump that thing over and get all that equipment wet. I think they had a dry bag. They did talk about having a dry bag to keep some of the electronics safe.
Yeah.
I heard Travis mention that. Good idea. Um, yeah, another shot of them going down there. It's not that deep, obviously traversable, but to walk around in that for a very long time. They did come across this piece of wood that they thought was interesting. It does look chopped to me.
No,
Like some.
that's a beaver.
Oh,
That's
that's a
beaver teeth.
beaver teeth. Thank you very
Yep.
much. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
you can see where they're chewing along.
right, yeah. And you see just after this, after they get this sample, they come upon a beaver dam. And
Yes.
actually, Thomas has just posted videos. He's dealing with a beaver in the irrigation canal, which is not a good place for a beaver.
Oh, no. Can't have them
Can't
there.
have that.
No, can't.
Move
That's
him.
fair. I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't think of that initially,
Yeah.
but yeah, it does have those teeth
Chisel marks from
teeth
teeth. Yeah.
marks. Yeah, nibble marks on
Doesn't
it. Yep.
explain the scorching look.
Yeah, the scorched look to it. Yeah, that's kind of odd. Definitely the work of a beaver. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I should have caught that myself.
One
But
of
yeah,
the many
with the
benefits of
scorching
living in
on
the
it.
country.
What's that?
One of the many benefits of living in the country.
Yep, absolutely. So Dragon goes over there with his machete, and
Machete.
he's hacking away at it, cutting away, and he gets a couple samples. And of course, they bag it up once they get a couple samples, and they're going to test those. So it'd be interesting to see what those
Yeah.
what the test results are on that for sure. And I think Travis had mentioned about it being very close to where that fence post was burned, which was another one of those very interesting little pieces. And then they came across this thing right here, which was really disturbing. They don't know exactly what it is yet. It was really gross, and they said it was very smelly. I got another shot of it here with some teeth on it. So they said it had canine type teeth. So it's a canine animal of some sort. Yeah, gross to say the least. But you know, what kind of animal was it that got in there and drowned, or was it killed and fell in the water? There's hair. You can see all the hair on its
Yeah, you
back.
can see some
Yeah,
gray
all
fur. To
that
me, it
gray
looks like a
fur back
coyote.
here. Is it a wolf of some sort?
Yeah,
That would make
coyote would be gray also. Um, and it's obviously it's got canine there too in the front. The
yeah.
stick is kind of hooked on the canine, so you know it's some type
Mhm.
of
Yeah, that's why I grabbed this picture so you could see those teeth. If that thing had been there since the 90s, Lucy would have got some.
Doesn't look like it's having any problems with decomposition.
no.
No,
The
no.
water's probably helping with that some too.
Yeah, yeah. No worries about decomposition on this thing. And then Travis, again, being a country boy, he got out there with his machete,
Dove
with
right in.
Dragon's machete, and he went over there and hacked off the jawbone. And bagged and tagged that jawbone, so they could take it back for analysis and to see what kind of animal it was. But and that was a coyote or something, yeah, um, something like that. But yeah, that was kind of gross. But you have to find out and you go back to that thing, that I was saying about you've had a couple of cattle that have died. You've got birds that have died. I'm sure there's plenty of other animals in this thing that died. And again, they don't have any idea how or why, and they probably won't get to that point on this because they're not going to do an autopsy with what's left of the body there. But what is happening to the animals out there? I mean, that leaves another whole question to be looked into. Another area of research to find out what's happening to these animals. I mean,
Yep.
what's your
Was
thoughts on
the
that? I mean,
was the Hutchings Museum, the institute, were they the ones that came out and they were taking samples of plant life and insects to study? I don't remember if it was them or if it was a different group.
I think it was them.
Yeah. So I know people have been asking about that. Is why don't you look at the plants and see if they're growing differently? Because plants that are getting hit with radiation grow in a certain way. So something that you can look at.
And I mean, what's interesting though is that I know back in Bigelow's day, they did plant studies. That was something that I don't exactly remember where I read, but I did read that. Um, I mean, animals die all over the place all of the time
oh,
because
absolutely.
it's nature. But when you have so many animal deaths that have unusual properties to them, I would say like the problems with decomposition, then I mean, it appears to be a symptom of the environment.
Yep.
Like,
Or having the cow that doesn't show up on the LiDAR scans. But then when they
yeah,
do that, when they go and they do this, the slam unit, and they
Slam
go
cam.
walking right up there, then they do get it, a slam cam. but the
Yeah.
drone couldn't see it underneath that tree. Why? It should have been able to take that tree out of there, which is what they do. So, again, weird anomalies happening with the animals that die on this ranch.
I was genuinely, when I first saw the animal in the water, I was worried it was one of the dogs that we've seen. Like,
Yep.
because we see William, the ranch dog, with that cow in particular. That was one of the things that we saw William with other dogs from, I guess, nearby ranches or reservations or something to that effect. And they just kind of roam wildly.
Yep.
And so that was my first thought, that it was one of those dogs, because it looks like, to me, the face of it looks like a canine. Although somebody said that they thought it was a bear, but because of the gray fur, I couldn't see that
No,
being the
no, I don't
case.
think
But I
that's
could.
not big enough. It's not big enough to be a bear.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nope, I don't think so. Yeah, Eric disclosed that they've been taking water samples. Yep, cool. Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's all part of the scientific method. You got to gather data everywhere
Hmm.
in every form, like you guys just talked about, checking out the plants and animals, the Hutchins Museum, gathering that data as well, if that's who it was. But they have to do that. You have to. It's all part
And
of it.
it's a huge area. It's 512 acres.
512 acres.
That's a lot of area to cover.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, it is. Um, Yeah, Tim says so you can download GPS data on your phone for free. That way, um, towed by boat. Okay. Yeah. So maybe a young bear. I don't know.
Still, it's got
Still
great
don't
fur
think so.
though, right?
Yeah, it's got great fur. You can see it in that one picture. I can bring that back up. You can definitely see the gray fur. I hate to zoom in on this because it's so gross looking, but you can see the gray fur right here.
Yeah.
That's what would put me off from even
And
like the coloring,
right. And if you just
and the teeth are
Google
so close together.
coyote skull, so you don't have to look at all the gross stuff, it looks pretty close to that.
Ah, yep.
So
I think it is like a coyote or something, yeah, that they found there. But again, they'll never find out what killed it, but they can't get that point. But they can get at least an analysis of what it was, and with the teeth and the jawbone, they'll be able to determine exactly what it was. But again,
Yeah.
what's killing these things? You just don't have any idea. And if they end up with more birds, or any other animals that seem to just die with mysterious circumstances and don't decompose, and nothing will eat it. I mean, that just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, the bird thing
out
is so
there,
weird because birds die all the time, but
Oh,
how
yeah.
often do we just come across a dead bird? Because nature, other animals, all of that stuff. So the fact that there's two of them that were just there, yeah, I don't know. It's just a whole lot,
Chupacabra.
just so weird. Everything has just gotten even weirder this season.
Yeah, it
And
really has. I mean, they've
what
really
episode
stepped
are
up
we
the
on?
weirdness. What's that?
3? We're
3.
on
Yeah,
the
this
I
is only
know.
third
3.
Yes,
episode?
got a long ways to go. Oh my
Good
gosh.
grief.
Did they not say in the insider program, did they not
Yeah.
say this one was
Yeah,
going to blow your socks off?
but I'm not gonna lie, we hear that often. This has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
absolutely like,
Intense.
you can't even keep up. There hasn't been a dull moment
Nope. I
at
tell you, there
all.
hasn't. No, absolutely. And
Mm-mm.
it's going to get worse, folks, before it gets better. So I think so. Anyway, we'll find out. But we'll be here. We'll be doing it again. We're going to do it again next week. Mike, I, and Jim Kelgard. There he is right there. Brown socks, brown water. There you go, Jim. But Jim will be sitting in for Shannon next week. That'll be Wednesday night when we talk about episode number 4. And I don't know what the name of it is. But we'll get to that. And we'll be talking about that one on Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then on Thursday night, don't miss a conversation. I'm going to call it a conversation with Eric Bard. Can't wait for that. Really, really looking
Me
forward to
too.
that.
Very excited.
Yeah, and I got to be on my game. I'm telling you what, I got to be on my game with Eric.
Yep.
You don't want
Class
to
will
miss
be in
that
session.
one. Class will be in session.
Professor
I'm
Bard.
hoping I can just ask a question, then sit back for 5 minutes and listen to him going and telling the teaching and stuff, and then throw
5
another,
minutes.
and then you guys can ask a question, and then
It won't be 5 minutes. You won't be sitting back for 5 minutes. You can ask a question. It'll be like 25 minutes.
That's okay. That's okay. And we'll go as long as he can. I told him that. I said, we'll go as long as you want. So it might be, we might be up till midnight, folks. We don't know yet. So
Yep.
I'll make sure to get my rest that day.
yes, make sure you get plenty of rest. Take a nap early in the day and be ready for it. Because here we
Yeah.
go. All right. Thank
Yep.
you, folks, for being here with us tonight. And we appreciate each and every one of you. And like I said before, if you like the content of our show, give us a thumbs up. It does help with the YouTube stuff. And tell your friends about this podcast. Anybody else that likes anybody else that likes the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, tell them about our podcast here and what we're doing. And have them come and join us live because we like that a lot. We like to interact. So we'll catch you next time, folks, right here on the J Free 906 podcast. Good night, everyone.